Well, welcome to Facebook, all my Facebook friends. Glad to have you out there. You know, this is the time when we just connect just before the show goes live all across 30 countries in the Caribbean and around the world. I'm so glad to be here with all of you. I get to get a little sneak peek of you, and you get a sneak peek of me just before the show starts. I'm really, really delighted to be here tonight because we're going to have the kind of show that really impacts people on a level that is so different than when we do interviews or things like that. So I want you to be prepared that I'm going into some very, very deep places tonight, okay? I want to say big ups to all my girls out there, all my friends out there. Make sure that you lock in and log on right now and follow the instructions. We're going with the Me Too movement tonight. So if you've experienced this, what we're talking about right there on Facebook Live, you go ahead and put Me Too. I actually want to be able to measure this tonight to kind of show the world what's going on as far as this particular situation is all about. So I'm glad that you're here with me again tonight. I love ya. Mwah. I really, really love you. I just want to say big ups to Jalea Bess, who's always on board with me. And I know that a lot of you have been waiting and watching for this all afternoon. So I know you're all out there. I've seen that you've clicked on some things that I've put out there. Now transfer what you put there in the last the last post that I put up on Facebook, transfer that onto this one right now, which is live. So if you put Me Too before, put it again, okay? Because we're live, and I want to see all those live comments going right there. Hey, just want to say I love you. You guys have been faithful. You're always with me, and I want to see you continue to be with me, okay? So stay right there, because we're getting ready to go live on the Carita Dee TV show. Mwah.
The Lord has come to give you life more abundantly. He's come to heal your wounded soul and set your spirit free. Mother, sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get alive. Oh, girlfriend, get alive.
Well, welcome to the Carita Dee TV show. I am Carita Dee, and so glad that you're here with me again. It is another great day that God has made, and we're going to have some joy up in the house tonight. As usual, we've got a great show lined up for you. One of those shows that it's just you and me, and I'm going to speak very candidly tonight. You're going to have to bear with me because there's kind of like this fire shut up in my bones. Yeah, something is brewing on the inside of me tonight, and I got to let it out. Have you ever heard that song in church? Sometimes you say, I got a feeling, I gotta let it out. Well, I got one of those tonight. Hey, listen, for all of you out there in Facebook and social media and whatnot, hey, make sure that you're putting your posts right there on with the rest of us so that we can keep up with monitoring your Facebook posts. Very, very important to me because I want to make sure that all of you are locked in and locked on. Some of you came on board earlier and you put your Me Too post there. I want you to transfer that and put it right here live on this page so that you can I can monitor it on this particular post, okay? So if you will do me a favor and do that, I will be really appreciative. Hey, listen, for all of you who have continued to stay here with the Carita Dee TV show, I'm so glad. We're glad to have you on CaribVision, which is streaming us and taking us all around the world, 30 countries in the Caribbean and around the world. And we are glad that you are live on Facebook as well. We want to make sure that what's happening here in the Caribbean, out of the Caribbean, something magnificent is happening with the Carita Dee TV show. And we are getting ready to launch into some huge territories. And we want to make sure that all of my girls, all of my guys are right there with me. One of the guys that's always right there with me is Patrick Snare. Yeah, that's right. Patrick Snare is always right there with me, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Patrick says, locked on in Ottawa, n'est pas vu Montreal. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Also, we've got Patrick Snare says, me too. So if you read it, Cheryl Reed is there. You'll know that you have to say what you have to say as well. Hey, big hello to Claire Henry. Notice that I put right there on Facebook, the Me Too movement is now here. That's right. It's now right here with us here in the Caribbean. So if you have been groped, fondled, pressured into compromising positions, threatened with job loss, intimidated with death threats, write Me Too. That's whatever. It could be even more than that. It doesn't matter. As long as you have been sexually harassed in any way, we want you to put Me Too. Don't just say hello. If you're saying hello, it means none of that ever happened to you, and that's okay. But if you want to, go one step further in taking the Me Too movement one step further, go ahead and put the words Me Too right there on the page, okay? Great. Tonight, I'm going to share with you a story of a woman whose personal experience really, really rocked the nation back in the early 1980s or the late 1980s. It's a phenomenal story, and it is one that is duplicated over and over and over again. We obviously see the Me Too movement has started in the United States, and it is going now throughout the entire world. Women and men, and I'm not going to leave the men out of this, women and men have now become so much stronger in being able to stand up and say, guess what? This happened to me too. So that's what the Me Too movement is all about. It's about us standing up and saying that happened to me too. It's long past the time where we're going to sweep things under the rug and pretend that they don't exist. What happens when you sweep things under the rug? They become bacteria. And that's why it's important that for change to happen as a society, somebody's got to take the first step and expose stuff. Now, when you expose stuff, it's not popular. I know that for a fact. I've done it myself. It's not popular. But unless we get to the point here in the Caribbean and around the world where we take some sort of stand, a physical, verbal stand against inappropriate, illegal, destructive, terrible, heart-wrenching, mind-changing, life-altering behavior, then when will it stop? Will we continue to say it's okay? I mean, sometimes I talk to people, especially, people in my family or whatever the case may be, and I am totally blindsided that their mindset is still so archaic that they would actually pacify these behaviors. We want to make sure that whatever is happening that is inappropriate in this society, that we are taking a handle on. Now, I'm just as much Christian as the rest of the Christians. I have a great call of God on my life. I want to talk to people all the time about the Bible and God. But there are certain things that we have to take command of ourselves. As a matter of fact, that's right there in the Bible, that we have to take authority over our own bodies. We have to bring it under subjection. And if we are responsible for our bodies, then surely we are responsible for what happens with our bodies. We're responsible for our emotions. We're responsible for not taking things and shutting it under a rug and therefore facilitating the perpetrator to continue to do it over and over and over again. When you come into the knowledge that someone obviously didn't start with you, you know what I'm saying? When something didn't start with you, when you've done your research and you've gone ahead and you maybe spoke with some other people, you found out that they've been doing it time and time and time again. At some point, it is incumbent upon you. It's incumbent upon me to say that's it. It is not going any further than this. And I know that it's a hard, difficult decision, especially in light of the fact that our Caribbean nation has been nations have been ones that have swept things under the rug. That is our culture. Our culture is pretend like it doesn't exist. Pretend like it didn't happen. Pretend like this and pretend like that. I am so sick of pretending. I got to the point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. No longer will I pretend. I've got to help somebody. I've got to be able to save the next person from going through what I went through. And the only way to do that is to step out in all boldness and just say, you know what? That's it. It stops today. So I want to say a big, big shout out to Claire Henry, who's out there with me. Trudy King is on Good Night Locked On. Hey, don't forget, you want to make sure that you put Me Too. If this has happened to you in any form or fashion, Me Too, you can, of course, call the numbers. They're right there, coming up right there on the screen in a very short while. Give us a call. You can disguise your voice if you want to and just say the word Me Too. I'm okay with that because we want to make sure that everybody, male and female, those of you who've been carrying these burdens for so long, I mean, totally, I get tons of calls from women who have been duped by both men and women. I get calls from men who've been duped by both men and women. I get them who've been sexually harassed, who've been groped, fondled by several different people in society. So that's why I'm doing this today. So we're going to come back in just a moment as we start the Me Too movement right here on the Carita Dee TV show. Coming right back in just a moment.
sister, best friend or wife. The message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Now wait till me gone. Now wait till your family dead and gone. See me could unite as one. Me want you call up your family, call up your friends, and tell them see you love them.
Strength and the most high. It's the work of the most high. When I lie, Psalm 87, read it and it tell you why. The victory is right.
Is a way no fear go. Me too cute away Chucky I go. I am so blessed. I am so stress free.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Check into your home and auto insurance. Confirm that the policies are valid and the coverage is appropriate.
Rita, so you're also a vegan.
Okay, I'm vegetarian. I would be vegan if I didn't eat cheese. That's my only, if I didn't eat cheese, I would be completely vegan. That's the only animal byproduct that I do consume. So if I can just cut the cheese, I know it sounds weird, but if I could just leave it out my diet and cut the cheese, I would be vegan. And honestly, if I think about it too much, I can't have, like if I eat cheese pizza and I'm like, okay, this can't, I start going through the chain of the process.
Sister, best friend or wife. The message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house. And of course, tonight we are talking about Me Too, the Me Too movement that is spiraling across the rest of the world. And now we've got it right here in the Caribbean. Want to make sure that all of you are on board. And if you are on board, go straight to the Facebook page and join us. If you're watching via CaribVision, glad to have you on board. And of course, our phone numbers will pop right up there. If you want to get in on this Me Too movement tonight, in with me, Carita Dee, you can go ahead and call us right here. The numbers are right there. Go ahead and lock right in. For those of you in the Caribbean, you can call toll free. Please, by all means, get in on this. For the rest of you that are out there live on Facebook and watching me right now, I want to say big ups to all my folks out there in Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, all of you, my best friend Mel out there in Charlotte, all of you out there in New York, all of you out there in Curacao, all of you out there in Antigua, Grenada, wherever you are across the Caribbean, love you. Mwah. Gus John said big ups to you. Nothing but love for you. All right. That's what the love of God is. When you can just love in spite of whatever is happening around the world. OK, you just love. And so what I want to do is to be able to set people free. OK, I want to be able to set people free. And that's why the Bible says whom the Son, when he came, to whom the Son sets free is free indeed, because that's Jesus came and set us free. So if we are carrying all of these things consistently, we never feel free. I was privileged to have somebody who was very close to me, a man who was very close to me, share with me several years ago that he had been sexually assaulted by someone. And when he was sharing it with me, I realized that that was something that had been staying on him for such a long time. And when I saw it, I said to myself, man, this ought not to be. We ought not to be carrying stuff for so long. So I was glad when I was watching all of these celebrities on TV all over the world going through this Me Too movement because of sexual harassment coming from the top layers. Then I realized how important it was for us to embrace this as well down here in the Caribbean and get to the next level as well. Now, our culture has been one that when we have had a very, very male-dominated culture here in the Caribbean. And so historically, a lot of these things have been covered up. simply because people are too afraid to lose their jobs. They're too afraid to talk about it. They're afraid that they get the death threats, that if you say anything, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to kill your mother, your father. All of these kinds of situations present themselves. And so people go through situations, and years and years and years and layers and layers and layers later, stuff starts to fall apart. Sometimes it can be such a life-changing moment. If you see a child, for example, who has gone through sexual harassment by a relative or by a teacher or by someone that they trust, a close family member, and then all of a sudden the child starts acting out. In turn, the parent tries to discipline the child, and in turn the child acts out more, and they discipline more, and they act out more. And it is so sad that even if the child gets to the point where the child says, this is what happened, a lot of times in our culture, one of the things that we don't do is believe them. We don't believe them. We don't say, okay, you're safe with us now. In most cases, you pretend like, oh no, Uncle so-and-so could never have done that. So-and-so could never have done that. The teacher could never have done that. They're all so right and so righteous, they could never have that. Your pastor couldn't have done that. So I want to share with you a letter, interesting letter that I received, an article really that I received about a woman who took a gigantic step in her time. It was back in the 1980s. And I want to share a little bit about, from this so that you can see what I'm talking about. Let's put on the glasses. Good. After the pain of watching her marriage fall apart, Pat felt that God was suddenly showering her with blessings. She had a new job at her church, which was led by a dynamic young pastor who in the late 1980s was becoming one of the most influential leaders in the country. Well, the pay at the church was much lower than her old job, but Pat, then 32, admired the pastor and the church's mission so much that it seemed worth it. Well, she felt even more blessed when in 1985, the pastor and his wife invited her to move into their home where she shared family dinner and vacations. And once, when the pastor's wife and their children were away, the pastor took her out for dinner. Well, when they got home, the pastor offered her a back rub. Ouch! First warning. Offered her a back rub in front of the house and told her to lie face down. Well, right at that moment, I shouldn't have to read anything more after that. Because if you tell me that you're going to give me a back rub and then you're going to lie me face down, sums up. So there's a lot of warning signs going off right now. Cha-ching, 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 bells ringing, all kinds of stuff. You ain't feeling good. You want to go to the bathroom. You're thinking this is awful. But because you're with an authority figure, whether it's your boss, your pastor, whether it is a teacher, whether it's a family member that's older, right there you're intimidated by the situation. So stunned, that's the word, she remembered feeling unable to say no to her boss and pastor as he straddled her, unhooked her bra, and touched her near her breast. She remembered feeling his hands shake. Yeah, well, he quivering because he all excited. Well, that first back rub in 1986 led to multiple occasions over nearly 2 years in which he fondled her breasts and rubbed against her. The incidents later escalated into one occasion of oral sex. And she said she was mortified and determined to stay silent. Now that's interesting, isn't it? That this was a grown woman, 32 years old, which goes to show that not everybody is heroic. Not everybody is able to withstand the pressure of being under these kind of situations. Not everybody can say to themselves, let me get up and run, even though they're in a church setting, which says that when you see situations like this, you must flee, you must run. And yet she couldn't run. She was determined to stay silent. Wow. She said, I really did not want to hurt the church. She's now 65 years old, speaking publicly for the first time. And she said, I felt like if this was exposed, this fantastic place, this church and all of that it was doing would blow up. And I love the church. I love the people there. I love the family. I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I was ashamed. How many of you tonight have been ashamed at that situation that you were in? If you were, just call me or go onto our live Facebook page and put Me Too. We're starting the Me Too moment. I'm Carita Dee, coming right back.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
For close to a half-century, the Sam McQuaid Charity Softball Tournament has been staged in Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota. This team is made up of a group of United States soldiers who paid the ultimate price on the battlefield.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Keep phone lines free for important calls.
And that's a flour, baking, now the ghee, on your hands like that. So make the balls roll nicely and smooth.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you in the house. And of course, I want to say big ups to all my girls out there and the guys too. Never want to forget the guys. But all of you who are out there just sharing with me, just sending me your comments every day. Mwah, I love you bad. Hey, listen, I just want to say hi to my Facebook family who are on board with me right now. Just love y'all so much. Patricia Evanson, she says Me Too, because that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the Me Too movement. Hey, I want to say hi to Marcia Aline. She's my girl who takes care of my hair, makes it look all good. So I love you, Marcia. And of course, got to shout out Stacy too, who takes care of my nails. Mars says, hi, I'm on. Glad to have you, Mars. Always on board. Thanks, Patricia. Always on board. Let's see who else is on board with us tonight. Let's see. Nikas Damali. Hi, y'all. We got this group here going together that we just love each other so much. Shruti King is also on with me. Claire Henry. And, of course, Patrick Sneer. Glad to have you all on board. Now, I was talking about this interesting story, which is very true, by the way, because of this Me Too movement that we've got going on. And here's the situation with this lady, Pat, and her pastor, and what was happening, around her, and why we have to be aware of what's going on, why we have to build that intestinal fortitude, so that when things like this happen, we can say no, we can say stop. We can run. The Bible tells us to flee. So she said, I didn't want to hurt the church. I felt like it was if this was exposed, this fantastic place would blow up. And I love the church. I love the people there. I love the family. I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I was ashamed. Okay. She says the pastor denied her allegations. Interesting, because she came out and talked about it when she was 65. And she said the pastor denied her allegations about her time working and living with them. This is what he said. He said, I never had an inappropriate physical or emotional relationship with her before that time, during that time, or after that time. He said in an email. How many times have we known, and do we know, that people will lie when they're caught? How many times, my God, how many times do you know that people will lie when they're caught? People, can I say that again? How many times do you know that people will lie when they're caught? They are not going to come out and say, yes, I did it. No, they're going to lie and cover it up. Okay? They're going to pass the blame, pass the buck, try to distract from it. Come out and say, no, that wasn't me. That's what people do, pastor or no pastor. Okay, so good. So since the Me Too movement emerged last year, a lot of pastors have been grappling with allegations of sexual abuse by their pastors. this lady, Pat, is not the first to accuse that pastor, her pastor, of wrongdoing, though her charges are more serious than those that had been reported before. In fact, it was reported in two separate newspapers that the pastor had been accused by several other women. You see, sometimes we women seem to think that we're the only ones something happening to. Well, for the most part, 99.9% of the time, it is not only you, boo. So what the perpetrator wants you to feel, that you are the only one that he's doing it to. He wants you to feel, first of all, that you're the special one, the anointed one, the one set apart to do this. And then, regardless of who he is, whatever public figure, whatever private figure, whatever it is, whether he's a family member, we have got to start making our children aware of these things. And so, in this case, there were other people who had accused him. It's just that she didn't know about it. That's the whole point. She didn't know that there were other people out there who were going through exactly what she was going through. Other people out there who were going through exactly what she was experiencing. Everyone going through the same shame, the same disdain, but at the same time, the same fear. So here it is. Some of the women now are coming out and they're saying, including, by the way, co-workers and a congregant, of inappropriate behavior, listen to this, that dated back decades. Do you understand that if somebody had said something and put this public and put that man on blast, that he would not have ruined these other lives that he ruined later on? I mean, we see this in the paper all the time. We read stories of celebrities who have done this kind of thing. Now it's a massive, massive trial. And then all of a sudden, the Me Too movement comes out and it's formed simply because all of them start to come out of the woodwork and they realize, oh my goodness, it wasn't just me. It was me too. It was a Me Too moment. It was you and me too, and you and me too, and you and you and you and me too. So this is the area where the enemy of God comes in to try to make his people feel like you're the only one experiencing. You're the only one that he's hurt. You're the only one that, oh, you just feel so special. Oh my God, baby, you're not that special. We're not that special. Not in the cases of being duped and tricked and deceived. We're not that special. It probably did not start with you. It's been going on for a long time. It's your season. Somebody didn't stand up so that you wouldn't have to go through the pain today. So I have put myself in line that I'm going to stand up and I'm going to speak out. Regardless of what people feel, regardless of what they say. I do not want anybody else feeling pain that I've gone through. I think that is my civic duty, that I don't want people coming along. I know we've had a history where we in the Caribbean say, well, it's not my business. It's not my business. So therefore, your brother is no, I mean, I don't understand how we read in the Bible. We either read it or we don't read it, but we can't do both. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, that's not my business. So I'm just going to let them go ahead. I'm going to let them fail. I'm going to let them get hurt. I'm going to let them get raped. I'm going to let them be devastated. I'm going to let them, their life direction change. That they're so mortified that they can't have good relationships, that they become prostitutes, that they become strippers, that they can't function in school. That they're constantly being disciplined by their parents, that they can't understand why they're different from the rest of their family. Oh my goodness, can I say amen to that? I'll say amen to myself today. That's all right. So, just want to say hi to all the Facebook people that are on board right now. Let's see, Odell Todd says, hi, I'm locked on. So here it is. Pat says, found out she was not the first to accuse him of the wrongdoing, though her charges were more serious. Then the accusations did not immediately result in consequences. Oh my God, the biggest word, I think, one of the biggest words in the dictionary, consequences. Her actions, the accusation, did not result in consequences. Sometimes you can accuse somebody, but they don't have no consequences. And therefore, they continue to do the same mess day in, day out, between. They just hurt people day in, day out, and we just leave it alone, and we don't give them any consequences. We in the church are really, really big on that, too. We don't call people in and tell them, hey, what you're doing is not right. So I'm going to stop right there for a moment. I'm going to come back, and we're going to continue to talk about Pat and see how the elders handled this and how the rest of the family handled it in just a moment.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get alive, oh, girlfriend get alive.
Guyana's first carnival experience has been dubbed a success. The festival, which kicked off on May 18th, climaxed on Sunday with the parades of the bands. Thousands of Guyanese from all corners of the country, as well as a large amount of tourists, on Saturday braved the weather and took to the streets of Georgetown to get a glimpse of the beautiful and earthily decked out men and women in their brightly colored costumes to celebrate the country's 52nd independence anniversary.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Avoid sightseeing.
It's not been easy keeping that publicly owned community station alive. And it's part of a network that's seen its share of troubles. Can you talk about that? Why do you think it's been so hard?
I mean, it is so important, Pacifica's roots, going back to World War II and the first Pacifica station, KPFA in Berkeley, founded by a war resistor who came out of the detention camps named Lou Hill, who said there's got to be a media outlet.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get alive, oh, girlfriend get alive.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house. And of course, we want to make sure that you're right here locked in and locked on with me right here on Facebook. For those of you who are watching us live on Facebook, hey, I just want to say a big, big shout out to Marcia Aline. Thank you, girl, for always locking in and locking on. Patricia Evanson, thank you. Odell Todd, of course, and all the rest of you who are continuing. Also, Antonio Giddens and Cheryl Reed. Yeah, all of you are there as well. Now, so we were talking about the Me Too movement because the Me Too movement has to do with sexual harassment. And if you want to follow the Me Too movement, of course, it's all over the internet right now, but we're going to follow it right here on on us live on the Carita Dee TV show because we want to be a part of what's going on as well. It doesn't mean that we're out there parading in the streets, although that could come eventually, knowing me. But right now we're going through this education process because we've got to become much bolder, much more cognizant, much more understanding of what the situation is all about, so that we can make better decisions and that in turn we can talk to our daughters and talk to our sons and tell them what this world is all about. This is not the world of 1960 anymore. You've got to tell your children what's going on. You actually, I think it's so much more harmful if you don't. So if that's the case, let's really, really be much more proactive now in handling these bigger areas that we have not dealt with, even within ourselves. I'm Me Too. So if you're Me Too, let's go ahead and just put Me Too right there on our social media pages. Okay, great. So here's Pat, and she continues to say that the church's elders conducted their own investigations of the allegations when they first surfaced and commissioned a second inquiry by an outside lawyer. And both investigations cleared the pastor, although the church's two lead pastors have since issued public apologies saying that they believe the women. So the pastor then announced to the congregation that he would accelerate his planned retirement by 6 months and step aside immediately for the good of the church. He continued to deny the allegations, but he acknowledged this, something really interesting. He said, I too often placed myself in situations that would have been far wiser to avoid. I'm like, what is that all about? I mean, I'm not sure I'm understanding that. So what happened was that one of the church's top two pastors resigned immediately. And they said they had a fundamental difference with the elders over how it had been handled. No mention was made to the pastor of the allegations against him at either of the services that they conducted where this was said. But what happened next is something that I think that we have to consider. When you are forced into a a sexual situation that you're uncomfortable with. And maybe you guys want to put it out there on Facebook so that we all understand some of the things that we are faced with as women and men, because this happens to men as well. Some of the things, for example, if you're standing at a water cooler, let's just say that, or you're standing at, where you can get a water fountain, something where you can get water, and the person comes, there's something called personal space. Okay? You're not supposed to be too close to me in my personal space. If I see somebody come up in my face like that, I step back to give myself more personal space. And if I see this keep stepping forward, I step back some more. Eventually, I say, stop. You're too close to me. I'm stepping back for a reason. You're in my personal space. You see? So if now you're at a water fountain and somebody comes and they rubbing up on you, oh my God, that ain't no, and you look back and it's just you and me. Well, surely now that ain't no accident. You know exactly what you're doing. But you see, most of us, we have this little button in our mind that we don't want. It's almost like, I can't believe that it happened. I really can't believe that it happened. Recently, someone shared something with me about a situation that I was going through. The person had tangible evidence. They are a qualified witness of what I was going through. And the person said it very clearly, very succinctly. When they saw the situation, okay, immediately, even though they could see what was happening, it's almost like you're seeing the moon and you're saying, is this the sun? You know what I'm saying? It's really weird. The person actually said to me, I saw it. I was right there in front. I could see it up close, front and center. I saw it with my own two eyes, but it was so disbelievable, so unbelievable. It was so incredible. They couldn't understand how this could actually happen in broad daylight. That they couldn't. The person that was involved in the situation was so highly respected by them that it blew their mind that they could be standing in front of this person and see it and say to themselves, my God, this can't be for real. That's how the person related to me. Like, I was so shocked. I looked up to them. I was so shocked. And that's what happens in situations like these. You see? What happens is that when somebody that you respect, maybe it's your boss or your pastor or whomever, that does something like this, you're like in shock. Like, how is this happening? I mean, is this really? No, it can't. Is it happening? Let me see for a second. You kind of discombobulated for a moment. It can't be happening. You've got to have somebody say, did you see it? Yeah. Was it real? Yeah. Did you see this? Yeah. Did you see that? Yes. Did you feel that? Yes. Did you? So I'm saying that when you go through a situation like this, let's just say you're a child. And all of a sudden, you're separated from the rest of the children. And the adult comes to you. And you're separate. And God gives us this wonderful thing called intuition. It's almost like a warning sign, like bells and whistles going off. All of these are going off saying, something right, flee, run, I got to get out of here. But we try to convince ourselves, it's going to be okay. It's kind of like the guest that we had last night. He continually rationalized it because we were talking about honesty and dishonesty. If you didn't see that show, fantastic show with Greg. He owned it. He went back and owned it. That's what I'm calling a real man. He went back and owned it. So when you got to these situations where somebody says, you're in the midst of something and you're with this intimidating person and it's late at night, you're the only one left there, and all of a sudden he upchuck on you and you don't know what you're going to do. All of a sudden, you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, is it really my boss doing this? Or how I can get out of this? And what I should do? And I really need this job and I need the paycheck and how my children go to work and eat and that's all that's going through your mind. It's almost incredulous. It's crazy. And that is what was happening with Pat. You would look back now and say, how could she do it? Well, she was dumb. She was crazy. She lay down there and let that man do to her. No, in the very moment, it's like you're stunned. And it doesn't help if you've got a weak personality. It doesn't help if you have not been tested in areas for you to have strength. So I don't blame women when they find themselves with these kind of situations. I don't blame them. What you must do is inform them. That's what you must do. You must inform them so that they make good decisions the next time. Hey, listen, it's all about helping the women and helping the men today, right here on the Carita Dee TV show. Coming right back.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Develop an emergency communications plan. Make sure all family members know what to do, especially children.
Resurf just takes on a whole community of its own, and what's so great is that it's a surf community that you're building in other countries and other areas, and you're bringing these group of people together, and they don't need to speak the same language, but they can surf and they can ride that surfboard.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Keep a working flashlight and batteries available during the hurricane season.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house with me. And of course, it's one of those nights where we're talking about the Me Too movement. You've been following it all around the world. We're seeing these situations rise up where big people of big, not necessarily big stature, but people of prominence in society, people who are movers and shakers, people who are leaders, are suddenly faced with this Me Too movement where people pop up from all around them and say, guess what? You didn't just do it to so-and-so, you did it to me too. So right here on the Carita Dee TV show, we are just talking to you directly, my girlfriends, my guy friends out there all across the Caribbean and around the world. We want to be a part of this Me Too movement as well. We do not want to stay in the dark ages on this. It is time that we caught up with the rest of the world. And so in doing this now, it is time for us to really say, me too, me too. And so I've got all my girlfriends and the guy friends too, because I'm not leaving out the guys, to come out and say me too. I want to say hi, good night to Indira Muhammad, who is locked on. Thank you for locking on. And for those of you who are saying me too, that this is what's happening, I put there that the Me Too movement is now here. And if you have been groped, fondled, pressured into compromising positions, if you've been threatened with a job loss, intimidated with death threats, you can just put me too below. Okay, so go ahead and put me too there so that we all understand that all of us going through it, you know. It's just that you thought you were by yourself. And I thought I was by myself. And somebody else thought they were by themselves. And guess what? Me too, me too, me too, me too, me too. Good. So we were hearing about Pat just before it went to the break. And one of the things that it mentioned here is, it said in many churches, magnetic pastor, like the pastor that she was talking about, is the superstar on whom everything else rests. And I thought about that in relation to what's happening around the world right now, that a lot of these people are major carriers of big positions and people's lives. And so a lot of the success of the whole organization and the shows and the media and whatever it is that they're involved in is resting on their heads. So with that comes a great amount of responsibility. Unfortunately, they take their responsibility in the wrong direction. So if he's considered a giant, he or she is considered a giant, revered as a leadership guru who has discovered the formula for bringing the people into the realm of success, you know, and if his books and his speeches and his movies and his whatever else have gone across the world and he's made such a great impact, you're not thinking about this person in that way. you're thinking to yourself, wow, it must just only be me that he's doing it to. And so that's why the Me Too movement came out. This man, this pastor, built a church independently. He said he set out policy. There were no policies set up. It didn't keep him accountable, so he could do whatever he wanted to do. Now, the most significant reason that sexual harassment can go unchecked is that what? The victims do not want to hurt the mission of what they're involved in. So let's take that back to the children. And it's true. If you've got a well put together family, whether there's just mommy and the children or grandma and the children are being fed, they go to school, they come home, they do their lessons, whatever the case may be, if they've got daddy and mommy, it doesn't matter. If they feel that the mission, and they may not be able to articulate this, but if they feel that the mission or the vision of their family is going to be threatened by exposure and that the family unit will start to dissipate, it will start to fall apart, then they are reluctant. And I'll dare say, I'll go even further to say they probably will never tell their parents what's going on. Because right there, you put the child, the perpetrator, puts the child in a position where they feel like everything is going. I remember feeling that way. Yeah, I felt it. I remember feeling that way when I was violated. Because I thought to myself, man, if anything happened, at that point in my life, if anything happens, this going to happen, that going to happen, third going to happen, fourth, and the brain starts to shut it down. So you start to think to yourself, I'm going to exist. I'm going to find a way to work around it. And so that's what you start to do. Children start to work around it. Adults start to work around it. You start to just exist within the realms of what's going on in your life. And so as a result of that now, other parts of your life are shutting down. Absolutely. Because now you're not formulating good, healthy relationships. You are afraid to formulate relationships. You're scared every time this person comes by. You walk away from them. You don't deal with them no more. You can't understand why you got all, and of course people around you can't understand it because you haven't articulated it to anyone. And that's how you're wondering for those of you who've got some problems with your children, I would check and make it so that you're in a nice, safe environment and watch your tone. Don't be saying, you sure somebody ain't touch you? Right away. They're going to say no, because now you have revealed to them just their greatest fear, that the tension and the atmosphere is going to change. So you've got to come in real soft on this. Real soft. You got to come in real nice. Hey, let's go out for some ice cream. Anything been going on? You sure there's nothing you want to talk to mommy about? You got to keep that safe environment, because it's going to take a lot to pull that thing out of them, because they have already set up barriers around it to protect it, to protect you, the mother, because somebody said they're going to kill you, to protect them, because now they know they're forced. I remember talking to a young woman, amazing. She was young, and she had right here in the Caribbean, right here in one of our countries in the Caribbean. And she had developed a system, a 16-year-old girl, Jesus. No, she was 15 at the time. She just went from 14 to 15. She had developed a system to protect her life, because it was just she and her mother. She had developed a system to protect herself. And all she could say to me was, I'm just waiting till I leave school. I am out of here when I leave school. Isn't that sad? Because now some perpetrator has put such a fear in her that that's all her whole life. That's it, linear. I am only waiting to get out. You wonder why people leave and go and run? It's because the perpetrator is still around. Yes, sir. So in the case of this, Pat was saying that, she stayed silent, because just like a lot of people, they feel that if they step forward, they'll damage the man's job. They'll damage, the ministry. Maybe God won't be able to accomplish things that's been doing through this man. All of these things are coming up in the victim's, mind. Sometimes one of the folks who were analyzing it said these leaders feel almost invincible. They don't feel like the rules apply to them. That hear me and hear me clearly. I want to say that again. They do not feel like the rules apply to them. So when you see somebody go out and do it, it's because they're no longer subscribing to the rules. I'm Carita Dee. So hopefully you're going to take those rules back and rewrite them. I'm coming right back in just a moment. Love you so much.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
In Northern California, neighbors report a dog is trapped in a nearby concrete wash. The animal appears calm, but is unable to find a way out.
Somehow she got into the canal. They get into the canals. The canals are lined with algae.
And now will they be able to coordinate their efforts?
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. A hurricane watch means there is a possibility of a hurricane within 36 hours.
Transfer that to your salad bowl, and now we toast the nuts. Pour half a cup of sliced almonds into a dry skillet over medium-high heat and toss until they're golden and fragrant. It only takes a few minutes. Then transfer them to your salad bowl along with 3/4 cup of dried cranberries. Pour it over your salad and toss together until every bite is coated in that luscious, creamy dressing.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house. And of course, this is the Carita Dee TV show, the kind of show that really speaks to the heart. We want to empower women to get back on track, and men as well, so that you can walk out what God has called you to do on this earth and do it in a comfortable, easy atmosphere. I just want to say hello, big ups to Sharon Sandiford, who says good night and me too. Yeah, girl, me too to me too. Yeah, we're talking about the Me Too movement tonight. I want to make sure that all of you are on board. Hey, listen, we were just talking just before the break about Pat. Pat was in a ministry. It took her a lot of years. It wasn't until she was 65 that she came out and shared her situation. And as a result, she got some Me Too's as well. Yeah, that's right. Some Me Too's came out. Even though the pastor denied it right down to when he resigned and denied it again. Many years later, as Pat was sharing, there was a Me Too moment. In 1984, Pat was walking to her car in the vast parking lot one night after services, and she had just been praying. And that's what can happen. Sometimes you say to yourself, well, I've been just praying for somebody to come at this, and right along there comes an imposter. Yeah, you got to check that thing before you say that this is from God, okay? And so she had just been praying when whether to apply for the job at the church she saw posted. And suddenly, this is what happened. A car screeched to a stop beside her, and the driver rolled down the window, and it was the church's pastor. And he said, could I drive you to your car or something? And her car was nearby, but she accepted the ride. I defy you to accept the ride from somebody you do not know. I defy you to do that. Don't do that. Okay? So it seemed like a sign from God. You know, sometimes us church folk always looking for signs. Be careful of them signs. So she took the ride, and she later, actually the pastor, also described the meeting as a miracle. Isn't that interesting? We both seen it as a miracle. And he had been driving out of the parking lot, this is what he said, when God urged him to go back and find the woman he drove by. That night, this is what he wrote in one of his first books. That night, I had no idea how offering help to a person who probably didn't need it would affect my life and ministry. Wow. Well, soon after, she left her position as a computer systems manager, and she found great purpose in working for a church that was adding more than 1,000 members a year. She served as the pastor's gatekeeper, fielding calls from the pastors across around the world, eager to tap into him for his advice. She said, it was a wonderful time. I thought maybe God was just being good to me, and I think he was, but I couldn't understand. Why did he select me? Because I didn't think that highly of myself. Well, she said she kept handwritten notes, documentation, people, documentation. She kept handwritten notes she received from the pastor. And in one of them, he praised her work and said, I am praying. Oh, Lord, help us, Lord Jesus. I am praying that your new small group at church will be a source of much happiness and strength in your life. And then he added, P.S., plus you are a knockout. Totally inappropriate. Right there, you should have said, boom, there it is. No, you ain't no good. No, I'm not going to sit under you for no word, because this ain't right. Right there. I tell women all the time, if you got a situation where a pastor or whatever, you got to leave that situation, because you're not going to be able to fight it. If you can't handle it, you got to get up and leave that church. Go and get your words somewhere else. You are never going to feel the glory of God and get all that you got to get from God if you're sitting in that church. Get up and go somewhere else. Don't sit there and pretend and go through the great pretend game. That's foolishness. You go to church to get something. You don't go there and take up time in a pew just to sit there. That's ignorance. Okay, great. So the pastor was regarded as a maverick, like a lot of the people in Hollywood or your relative or whomever. They're regarded as a maverick. That's why they're so ballsy in coming out and saying that they can do these kind of things, because they're regarded as a maverick. So she says, we were at the center of this great adventure. It could be that the person is somebody that takes care of you, somebody who you look up to, somebody you revere. Do you have somebody like that now? Well, go on and say, me too. We're right here live on Facebook. Hey, I'm Carita Dee. This is the Carita Dee TV show, and I'm going to be right back to wrap it up.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Be prepared. Get cash in case ATMs stop working after the hurricane.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee, and of course, it's been an interesting time with you tonight. And we want to continue to really, really get this Me Too level, Me Too movement onto the next level. If you haven't put Me Too, and if you've been experiencing this, you want to go ahead and reach out to me in my inbox, by all means, do so. For the rest of you, I just want to share what happened in the very end with Pat. Pat said after a while, the pastor told her to go and rent several pornographic videos, and even though she said she was highly embarrassed, he insisted on watching them with her while he was dressed in a bathrobe. You see, anything that is permitted increases. Can I say that again? anything permitted increases. So if you permit it, it's going to increase. If you permit stuff going on in the society, it's going to increase. So anything permitted, they're going to go to the next level. And that's exactly what he did. One night, she said she felt too sick. He felt too sick to go to a church event, so he sent his wife instead. And when she brought him something to eat, he fondled her again. And then during the years of harassment, he never kissed her. They never had intercourse, but she was particularly ashamed about the oral sex. She grew increasingly racked by guilt and tried to talk with him. And one day in his office, she told him that it was unfair to his wife. Good Lord Almighty, that's a whole other show. That it was sin and that she felt humiliated. And that night she recorded in her journal what he had said in response. These were his words. It's not a big deal. Why can't you just get over it? You didn't tell anyone, did you? Everybody wants to keep a nice little secret because secrets can keep bacteria hidden. Oh, absolutely. We want to go out to church. We want to go to our jobs. We want to go to our schools. We want to go everywhere. Just keeping ourselves just so held together so that no one will know our dirty little secret. No one will know what's happening with our lives. And when people get bold enough to come forward, then we ostracize them. We castrate them. We feel that it's the worst thing. But one day, God comes in and says, enough is enough is enough. And a rise of people get up and say, enough. One person gets up and says, guess what? It happened to me. Another person gets up and says, me too. Another person says, me too. And all of a sudden, a plethora, a movement, a mass, a wave, a tsunami comes in. And you see that it was just not that one person that might have been ostracized, that it was several other people that it happened to. I defy you today to take a stand and go forward and do something magnificent by stepping out of the realms and doing something great. I'm Carita Dee. If you're suffering with this, take a stand today because it's going to be amazing. I'm going to tell all of you, as I always do, girlfriend, get a life.
Mother, sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. Girlfriend, get a life.